The message came on a Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth lit up at the same time. Televisions, computers, phones, even the giant displays in city squares all showed the same thing. A creature that looked nothing like a human stared out at the world. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its smooth head. Its skin shimmered like oil on water, changing colors as it moved. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect Korean, English, Chinese, and every other human language all at once. People of Earth, I am Ambassador Vexthar of the Galactic Council. Your planet has been observed for 300 of your years. The Council has decided that humanity is ready to join galactic civilization. This is a great honor. Admiral Taman was in his office at the United Nations headquarters when the broadcast started. He had been drinking his morning coffee and reviewing naval exercises. Now the coffee sat forgotten as he watched the alien speak. Around the world, billions of humans stopped what they were doing and stared at their screens. The terms of your entry are simple, Vexthar continued. His voice was pleasant, almost friendly. You will provide 60% of your planet's resources to the Council. You will dismantle all military forces. You will allow Council oversight of all your technology. You have 90 of your days to accept these terms. This is not negotiable. The screen went dark. For a moment, the entire planet was silent. Then chaos erupted. Taman's phone rang. It was the Secretary General. Within an hour, every world leader was on an emergency video call. The room was filled with frightened faces and angry voices. Did that thing just threaten us? Asked the American president. It said we have no choice, added the Chinese premier. This is an invasion. Taman listened to them argue for 20 minutes before he spoke. We need information. Has anyone responded to their transmission? Several countries have tried, said the British Prime Minister. There's no response. They just broadcasted their demands and went silent. Then we need to research, Taman said calmly. We need to know what we're dealing with. I recommend we establish a task force immediately. That's how diplomat Daehyun got involved. He was a specialist in first contact protocols, though until today that had been entirely theoretical. The UN put him in charge of analyzing everything they could learn about the Galactic Council. Daehyun worked for 3 days straight. His team examined every second of the broadcast looking for clues. They found something disturbing. The Council has done this before, Daehyun told the assembled world leaders on the 4th day. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his voice was steady. I found references in their broadcast to other client species. I cross-referenced those names with astronomical data. He pulled up a star chart. Red dots marked planets across the galaxy. These are the worlds that joined the Council as clients in the last 1,000 years. I checked Earth's deep space observations of these systems. Every single one shows a significant reduction in electromagnetic emissions within a century of joining. What does that mean? Asked the Korean president. It means their populations dropped, Daehyun said quietly. Drastically. Between 40 and 70% on every world. The Council isn't offering us partnership. They're offering us extermination. The room erupted in shouting again. Taman let them vent for a few minutes before calling for order. We have 2 options, he said. We can surrender and die slowly, or we can fight and maybe die quickly. But at least we'll die on our feet. Fight with what? Demanded the French president. They have faster-than-light travel. They've been traveling between stars for thousands of years. We barely made it to Mars. General Hyeji spoke up from her seat. She was Korea's top military strategist, known for her unconventional thinking. They have better technology. That doesn't mean they know how to fight. Everyone turned to look at her. She stood up and walked to the display screen. Look at their broadcast again, she said. Really look at it. Ambassador Vexthar gave us 90 days. Why? If they wanted to conquer us, they could just attack. They gave us a deadline because they expect us to follow rules. Their rules. She zoomed in on the alien's face. Look at his expression. He's not worried. He's not even cautious. He's bored. This is routine for them. They've done it hundreds of times and nobody ever said no. So what are you suggesting? Asked Taman.
Hyeji smiled.
It was not a pleasant smile. I'm suggesting we be the first ones to say no, and we make them regret ever coming to Earth. The vote was close, but humanity chose to fight. For the next 80 days, the world worked in secret. Publicly, Earth appeared to be preparing to accept the Council's terms. Behind the scenes, every military force on the planet mobilized. Dr. Minho led the scientific effort. He was a physicist who had been working on theoretical faster-than-light communication. Now he had a real alien transmission to study. Their shields are sophisticated, he explained to Hyeji during one of their planning sessions, but they're designed for energy weapons. Lasers, plasma, particle beams. I don't think they've dealt with kinetic weapons in a long time. Kinetic weapons? Asked Hyeji. Things you throw really, really fast, Minho said. Missiles, railgun slugs, even nuclear weapons but used for their blast force instead of radiation. Their shields might not stop a chunk of metal moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Hyeji nodded slowly. So we can hurt them. Good, what else? They're arrogant, Minho continued. Their communication protocols are barely encrypted. It's like they don't believe anyone would dare intercept their messages. I've been reading their fleet communications for 2 weeks now. And they think we're primitives. Savages barely worth noticing. Their fleet commander, someone named Thelmon, actually said humans are quaint in one of his reports. He thinks this will be easy. On day 85, Earth sent its official response. Daehyun delivered it personally, traveling up to the council station that had appeared in orbit. The station was beautiful, a crystalline structure that glittered in the sunlight. He met with Ambassador Vexithar in a conference room that seemed to be made of living light. The alien looked pleased. You've made the wise choice, Vexithar said. The transition will be smooth. We are civilized beings. There's no need for unpleasantness. I agree, Daehyun said, keeping his face neutral. No need for unpleasantness at all. We've prepared a ceremony for the formal surrender. All of Earth's leaders will attend. It will take place in 5 days. Excellent, Vexithar said. Commander Thelmon will be pleased. He's been eager to move on to the next assignment. Your world is quite small by galactic standards. Daehyun smiled and shook the alien's hand equivalent. As he left the station, he sent a single encrypted message to Earth. The trap is set. Far below, in hidden bunkers and converted factories across the planet, humanity's military forces made their final preparations. Ships that looked like mining vessels moved into position throughout the solar system. Weapons platforms disguised as satellites drifted into optimal firing positions. Soldiers trained in brutal close-quarters combat techniques waited for their orders. Admiral Taman stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, hidden on the far side of the moon. He looked at the blue marble of Earth hanging in the black sky. They think we're weak, he said to Hyeji, who stood beside him. They think we'll go quietly. Then they don't know humans very well, Hyeji replied. We've been fighting and killing each other for our entire history. We're really, really good at it. Taman nodded. 5 days until the ceremony. 5 days until they learn what humans do when you threaten our home. He turned to his communications officer. Send the message to all units. Operation Ragnarok is a go. Across the solar system, thousands of human soldiers received the same message. In 5 days, they would teach the Galactic Council a lesson that would echo across the stars. Humanity was done being underestimated. The ceremony was scheduled for noon, Earth Standard Time. Commander Thelmon arrived 3 days early with his personal guard. He wanted to inspect the venue and make sure everything was properly arranged for such an important occasion. Captain Jiwon watched him through binoculars from a building 2 kilometers away. The alien commander was tall, nearly 3 meters with 6 limbs and skin that looked like polished bronze. He moved with confidence, pointing at things and giving orders to his subordinates. He's not even wearing armor, Jiwon muttered to her second-in-command. Look at him. He thinks he's at a parade. Good, replied Lieutenant Kuhn. The more relaxed they are, the better this works. Jiwon lowered her binoculars. Around her, 50 of Earth's best Special Forces soldiers waited in silence. They had been training for 3 months for this single mission. Every one of them knew they probably wouldn't survive. None of them cared. Below the city, in a secret facility that had been a subway station 2 months ago, Dr. Minho made final adjustments to his equipment. Banks of computers filled the space, all running programs that would have been impossible before they captured those council transmissions. How's it looking? Asked his assistant, a young programmer named Yuna. Good, very good, Minho replied, not taking his eyes off his screens. The council's network architecture is incredibly sophisticated, but it has a fatal flaw. They trust it completely. No firewalls. No redundancies. It's like a house with 1,000 rooms and every door unlocked. So we can get in? Oh, we can get in, Minho said with a grin. And once we're in, we can make their lives very difficult. Their weapon systems, their shields, their navigation. Everything runs through the same network. They've never needed to separate systems because nobody has ever hacked them before. Yuna looked nervous. Are you sure this will work? Minho finally looked up at her. War is never sure. But I'll tell you what I am sure about. These aliens think they're better than us. Smarter, more advanced. They're about to learn that being smart and being clever are two different things. Across the solar system, hidden weapons platforms came online. They didn't look like weapons. Some looked like asteroids. Others looked like damaged satellites or space debris. Earth had scattered them throughout orbit over the past 80 days, and the Council's sensors had dismissed them as junk. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Taman reviewed the battle plan for the 100th time. Every detail mattered. Timing was everything. Admiral, we're receiving reports from all stations, said his tactical officer. Everyone is in position. Good, Taman said. And the civilian evacuation? 97% complete. Everyone who wanted to leave the target cities has been moved to safe zones. Taman nodded. They had evacuated millions of people, telling them it was a drill. Most believed it. Some didn't. But they went anyway because the alternative was worse. General Heiji entered the bridge. She looked tired but focused. The ground forces are ready. All teams have confirmed receipt of their orders. How are they handling it? Taman asked. Heiji shrugged. They're scared. But they're angry too. Good combination for what we need them to do. She pulled up a holographic display showing Earth and its surrounding space. Red dots marked Council ships. Blue dots marked human forces. There were far more red dots than blue. We're outnumbered 5-1 in ships, she said. Their ships are faster, tougher, and better armed. In a straight fight, we'd lose in minutes. So we don't fight straight, Taman finished. Exactly. On the second day, Ambassador Vexthar gave an interview to human media. It was broadcast worldwide. He sat in a comfortable chair aboard his ship, looking relaxed and friendly. I understand humans have concerns, he said to the nervous reporter. This is natural. Change is always difficult. But the Council has guided hundreds of species to prosperity. You will benefit greatly from our wisdom. What happens to species that refuse? The reporter asked. Vexthar's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went cold. That has never happened. All species eventually understand that cooperation is beneficial. The alternative would be unfortunate. Watching from his office, Daehyun smiled grimly. The alien had just threatened the entire planet on live television, and probably didn't even realize it. The Council had been doing this for so long they had forgotten how to be diplomatic. They only knew how to be conquerors. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Taman. 48 hours. Daehyun looked out his window at the city below. Seoul was still bustling with life, people going about their daily routines. Most of them had no idea what was about to happen. That was probably for the best. He thought about his family. His daughter was 7 years old. She liked to draw pictures of space and aliens. Before the Council arrived, he had encouraged her imagination. Now he wondered what kind of galaxy she would grow up in. Would it be one where humans were free, or one where they were slaves? Not slaves, he said quietly to himself. Never slaves. The day before the ceremony, Commander Thelmon hosted a dinner for Earth's military leaders. It was meant to be a gesture of goodwill, a chance for both sides to get to know each other. General Heiji attended, wearing her full dress uniform. The dinner was held aboard Thelmon's flagship, a massive vessel that hung in orbit like a small moon. The alien commander was charming and gracious. He showed Heiji around his ship, explaining how various systems worked. He seemed genuinely pleased to share his knowledge. Your species shows promise, he said as they walked through a corridor that seemed to be made of flowing water. Primitive, yes, but with potential. In a few centuries, you might even be allowed to serve in the Council's fleet. How generous, Heiji said, keeping her voice neutral. We are a generous people, Thelmon agreed, missing her sarcasm entirely. That's why the Council has lasted so long. We help lesser species reach their potential. Heiji smiled and nodded and asked questions that made her sound impressed. Inside, she was memorizing everything. Ship layouts, guard positions, weapon placements, crew numbers. When she returned to Earth, she had 3 hours of detailed mental notes. She spent the night turning them into tactical plans. Their ships are designed for comfort, not combat, she told Taman during their final briefing. The crew quarters are luxurious. The recreational facilities are amazing. But there are no blast doors. No sealed sections. No emergency shelters. If we breach their hull, the entire ship is vulnerable. They've never needed those things, Taman said. Their enemies always fight the same way they do. Stand-up battles, honor, rules. Then we break every rule, Hiji replied. At midnight, Captain G1 gathered her team for a final briefing. They were in a safe house on the outskirts of the city. Tomorrow they would move into position for the ceremony. Remember, she told them, the council expects us to fight like they do. Clean, honorable, civilized. We're not going to do that. We're going to fight like humans. What does that mean? Asked a young soldier named Minseo. Ji-Wan looked at him steadily. It means we use every advantage, every trick, every dirty tactic we can think of. It means we take hostages. We use human shields. We strike from hiding and retreat before they can respond. It means we do things that will make them call us monsters. The room was silent. Some soldiers looked uncomfortable. Others looked determined. I won't force anyone to do this, Ji-Wan continued. This kind of fighting goes against everything we were trained to do. If you want out, leave now. No shame in it. Nobody moved. Good, Ji-Wan said. Then let's show these aliens what happens when you threaten Earth. In his lab, Dr. Minho uploaded his virus to a portable drive. The virus was his masterpiece. 3 months of work compressed into elegant code. It wouldn't destroy the Council's systems. That would be too obvious. Instead, it would make them unreliable. Weapons would misfire. Shields would flicker. Navigation would give incorrect readings. Just small errors, random enough to seem like malfunctions instead of sabotage. But in battle, small errors meant dead soldiers. It's ready, he told Yuna. Tomorrow we plug this into their network and watch them fall apart. Yuna nodded nervously. And if they detect it? They won't, Minho said confidently. They're too arrogant. They think they're the smartest beings in the galaxy. That arrogance is going to kill them. Dawn came to Earth. It was a beautiful morning, clear and bright. In orbit, Council ships arranged themselves in a ceremonial formation. On the ground, dignitaries began arriving at the venue. Ambassador Vexthar dressed in his finest robes. Today would be another successful integration. Another primitive world brought into the fold. He had done this 23 times before. It always went the same way. Admiral Taman stood on his bridge and watched the clock count down. Around him, his crew worked in silence. They all knew what was about to happen. All stations report ready, his tactical officer said quietly. Taman took a deep breath. He thought about his children, safe in a bunker hundreds of kilometers away. He thought about the billions of humans who were counting on him. He thought about what would happen if they failed. Then he stopped thinking and started acting. Send the signal, he ordered. Operation Ragnarok begins now. The ceremony hall was filled with dignitaries from across Earth. Ambassador Vexthar stood at a podium carved from crystal that glowed with soft light. He looked pleased with himself as he began reading the terms of Earth's surrender. Commander Thelmon watched from his command ship in orbit. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. In a few minutes, humanity would officially become a client species of the Council. Then he could move on to more interesting assignments. That's when the first missile hit. It came from what looked like a dead satellite. The object had been drifting in orbit for weeks, dismissed as space junk. But it wasn't dead at all. At the signal, it activated and launched a kinetic kill vehicle at 90% of light speed. Thelmon's ship didn't even have time to sound an alarm. The missile punched through the shields like they weren't there. The impact released more energy than 100 nuclear weapons. The massive Council flagship simply came apart, breaking into thousands of burning fragments. Thelmon died without ever knowing he had been attacked. 3 more Council cruisers exploded in the next 5 seconds. All across Earth's orbital space, hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves and opened fire. Not with energy weapons, but with simple kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Physics did the rest. In the ceremony hall, Vexthar stopped speaking. His hand went to his communicator. His 4 eyes went wide as he received reports from orbit. That's when Daehyun pulled out a pistol and shot him. The ambassador fell, bleeding strange silver blood onto the crystal floor. Human soldiers hidden among the dignitaries revealed weapons and opened fire on the Council guards. The aliens had better armor and better guns, but they had never expected an attack. They died confused and surprised. All teams move. Captain G1's voice crackled over secure channels. Hit them everywhere at once. What followed was not war as the Galactic Council understood it. It was a massacre. Human forces struck Council positions across the planet simultaneously. They didn't send warnings. They didn't offer chances to surrender. They just attacked with overwhelming brutality. In London, a Council administrative center came under assault from British special forces. The aliens tried to activate their defensive systems, but Dr. Minho's virus had already infected their networks. Doors that should have sealed stayed open. Shields that should have activated flickered and failed. Weapons jammed at critical moments. The human soldiers moved through the building like water, flowing around resistance and drowning anyone who tried to fight. They used the Council's own people as shields, forcing the aliens to choose between shooting their comrades or being shot themselves. General Hiji led the main assault on the Council's orbital command station. Her fleet approached in a tight formation that looked like a standard battle line. The Council Defense Coordinator, a creature named Shaltek, recognized the formation from his military academy studies. He ordered his ships to respond with a classic pincer movement. That's exactly what Hieji wanted him to do. As the Council ships moved to surround her fleet, Hieji triggered her real weapons. Human ships that looked like civilian transports suddenly deployed nuclear mines. Not sophisticated weapons, just dirty bombs wrapped in maneuvering thrusters. The Council ships tried to adjust, but their sensors were being flooded by electronic warfare systems. They couldn't tell which targets were real and which were decoys. When the mines detonated, they created massive clouds of radioactive debris that the Council's sophisticated sensors couldn't penetrate. Forward through the radiation, Hieji ordered calmly. Her crews had been given anti-radiation medication. It wouldn't save them in the long run, but it would keep them alive long enough to fight. The human ships plunged through the deadly clouds while the Council ships hesitated, their programming unable to comprehend someone voluntarily exposing themselves to lethal radiation. By the time the Council commanders realized what was happening, Hieji's ships were inside their defensive perimeter. At close range, her railguns tore through alien hulls. Her missiles, crude but effective, overwhelmed alien point defense systems through sheer numbers. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Taman coordinated the global assault. Reports flooded in from around the world and throughout the solar system. 90% of Council ships in orbit were destroyed or damaged. Ground forces had captured or killed most of the Council personnel on Earth. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Council homeworld," his communications officer said. "It's on all frequencies. They want to talk." "Ignore it," Taman said flatly. "We're not done yet." In Tokyo, Captain Jiwon led her team into a Council transport ship that had been grounded at the airport. The alien crew tried to surrender, activating their ship's distress beacon and opening their airlocks. Jiwon ordered her team to accept the surrender, then immediately deployed chemical weapons into the ventilation system. The aliens died gasping, confused about why the humans had violated such a basic rule of warfare. "No prisoners," Jiwon said to her team as they moved through the ship. "Not until we're sure we've won." One of her soldiers, a young man named Junho, looked sick. "Captain, they surrendered." "This isn't right." Jiwon grabbed him by the collar. "You know what's not right? What they did to the other species they conquered. 60% population reduction. That means they killed 6 out of every 10 people. So we're going to kill them first and we're going to feel bad about it later. Understood?" Junho swallowed hard and nodded. The Council's response was slow and confused. They had never dealt with this kind of warfare. Their military doctrine was thousands of years old, based on honorable combat between equals. The idea that an enemy would fake surrender, use hostages, or deliberately expose themselves to radiation was incomprehensible. On the Council homeworld, the ruling assembly watched the reports in horror. One of their junior members, a being named Krellox, had studied ancient galactic history. He recognized what he was seeing. "They're fighting like Deathworlders," he said quietly. The senior counselors turned to look at him. "Deathworlders?" asked Council Leader Miraseth. "What are those?" "Species that evolved on harsh planets," Krellox explained. "Worlds where everything was trying to kill them. Such species develop a different mindset. They don't fight to win. They fight to survive. There's no honor in it, no rules, no mercy, just whatever works." "Earth isn't a death world," Miraseth protested. "We studied it. Nice climate, abundant resources, no major predators." "No major predators except each other," Krellox said. "Look at their history. They've been fighting wars against themselves for their entire existence. Chemical weapons, biological warfare, nuclear bombs. They built weapons specifically designed to cause maximum suffering. They're not civilized beings learning to fight. They're killers learning to be civilized. The assembly sat in shocked silence as they watched another council ship explode on their viewing screens. Back on Earth, Dr. Minho's virus was spreading through the council's communication network like wildfire. Every time a council ship tried to send a message, it carried the infection to new systems. Within hours, every council vessel in the sector was compromised. "It's working better than I hoped," Minho told his team. "Their ships are fighting blind. Their commanders can't trust their own sensors. Every order they give has a chance of being misinterpreted. We've turned their technological advantage into a liability." General Hyeji breached the Council's orbital command station with brutal efficiency. Her Marines wore simple ballistic armor, not the sophisticated powered suits the Council used, but they fought with a ferocity that terrified the aliens. When a Council soldier would take cover, the humans would throw grenades that filled rooms with shrapnel. When aliens tried to set up defensive positions, the humans would bypass them and attack from unexpected directions. When the Council tried to seal areas of the station, the humans would use cutting torches to create new entrances. The alien commander Shaltek tried to organize a final stand in the station's command center. He had 50 of his best troops and thought he could hold out until reinforcements arrived. Hiji didn't assault the command center. She didn't need to. Instead, she sealed all the exits and cut off the air supply. Then she waited. After 6 hours, Shaltek's troops were gasping in the thin air. They had a choice, surrender or suffocate. They chose surrender. When Hyeji's Marines entered the command center, they found Shaltek on his knees, his weapon discarded. He looked up at the general with his large compound eyes. "Why?" he asked in broken English. "Why fight this way? The Council offered you peace." Hyeji looked at him coldly. "You offered us slavery. You told us to give up 60% of our population. Did you think we would just accept that?" "But that's how integration works," Shaltek said, genuinely confused. "Resources must be redistributed. The weak must make way for the strong. This is natural." "Maybe in your galaxy," Hyeji said, "but humans have a different idea about what's natural. When someone threatens us, we don't surrender. We fight, and we fight dirty because we fight to win." She gestured to her Marines. "Take him to the holding cells. Make sure he's comfortable. He's a prisoner of war now, and we do take care of our prisoners." Once the fighting stops, Admiral Taman received the final casualty reports. The war lasted 47 days. That was all it took for Earth to break the Galactic Council's military power in the sector. But those 47 days changed the galaxy forever. News of the conflict spread through faster-than-light communication networks. At first, other species didn't believe the reports. The Council had ruled for 10,000 years. They had never lost a war. How could a primitive species that barely reached its own moon defeat them? Then the footage started circulating. Humans using chemical weapons. Humans detonating nuclear devices in close proximity to their own ships. Humans forcing alien prisoners to march in front of their troops as shields. Humans fighting with a savagery that hadn't been seen in civilized space for millennia. Major Sunwoo was in charge of Earth's intelligence division. His job was to monitor galactic communications and figure out how other species were reacting to humanity's victory. What he found was both encouraging and terrifying. "They're calling us the savage species," he reported to Admiral Taman during a secure briefing. "Also Deathworlders, the Unchained Ones, and the Reapers of Sol. None of it is meant as a compliment." "Do they understand why we fought this way?" Taman asked. Sunwoo nodded. "Some do. We've intercepted communications from Council client species. Many of them are celebrating. They're calling us liberators. They see what we did and they're thinking about doing the same thing." "And the others?" "The others are terrified. They see humans as a new threat. Possibly worse than the Council, because at least the Council was predictable. We're not." Taman leaned back in his chair. He looked older than he had 2 months ago. The war had aged everyone who fought in it. "What's the overall assessment?" "Mixed," Sunwoo said carefully. "Some species want to ally with us. Others want to quarantine us. A few are talking about a preemptive strike before we become too powerful. The galaxy is in chaos and we're the cause of it. While diplomats tried to figure out humanity's place in the galaxy, the military focused on the immediate problem. The Council still had forces in the sector, and they were regrouping. General Hyeji planned the assault on Vex Station, the Council's regional headquarters. It was a massive structure, home to over 50,000 council personnel and defended by the strongest fleet they had left. "We can't take it," said Captain Jiwon during the planning session. "Not directly. They've reinforced their defenses. They know our tactics now. So we don't take it directly," Heji replied. She pulled up a display showing the station. "We take it psychologically." For the next week, Earth's forces surrounded the station but didn't attack. Instead, they broadcast messages, images of Earth's history, videos of humans fighting World War I in the trenches, using poison gas and dying by the millions, footage from World War II, showing the devastation of nuclear weapons, pictures from smaller conflicts, showcasing the creative ways humans had found to kill each other. The broadcasts were narrated in simple terms. "This is what we do to ourselves," the messages said. "Imagine what we'll do to you." Inside Vex Station, morale collapsed. The council personnel had grown up in a peaceful galaxy. They had never seen real violence before Earth. Now they watched hours of footage showing human brutality, and they understood that they were facing something they couldn't comprehend. Station Commander Drelkin tried to maintain order, but it was hopeless. His troops refused to fight. They had seen what happened to the council forces on Earth. They knew humans didn't take prisoners until after the battle was won. They knew humans used tactics that should be impossible for sentient beings to consider. When Hieji finally ordered the assault, it barely qualified as a battle. The station's defenders surrendered within hours. Many of them had already abandoned their post before the humans even arrived. Hiji walked through the station's command center with Captain Jiwon at her side. The place was pristine, undamaged. The aliens had given up without firing a shot. "It feels wrong," Jiwon said quietly. "We prepared for a fight." "Be grateful we didn't need one," Hieji replied. "Every soldier who dies makes humanity a little darker. We've already done things that will haunt us for generations. We don't need to add to that burden." They found Commander Drelkin in his office waiting for them. He stood when they entered, his tentacles trembling slightly. "I surrender myself and this station to your authority," he said formally. "I ask only that you treat my people with mercy." "We will," Hieji assured him. "The war is over. You're prisoners, not enemies." Drelkin looked relieved, then confused. "I don't understand. Why fight so savagely if you're capable of mercy?" Hieji thought about that for a moment. "Because we had to win. When you're fighting for survival, you use every tool available. Honor is a luxury we couldn't afford, but now that we've won, we can afford to be merciful." The victory at Vex Station effectively ended the war. The Council's remaining forces in the sector retreated to their home territories. Earth controlled the local region of space completely. But the victory came with a cost that couldn't be measured in casualties alone. Dr. Minho found himself unable to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the aliens his virus had killed. Ships that crashed because their navigation systems failed. Soldiers who died when their life support malfunctioned. They were enemy combatants, yes, but they were also living beings who died because of his code. "Does it get easier?" he asked Admiral Taman during one sleepless night. They were both in the Indomitable's observation deck, looking at Earth hanging in space. "No," Taman said honestly. "It doesn't. I ordered strikes that killed millions. I sent people to die in battles I knew were risky. I made choices that saved humanity but damned my own soul. That weight never gets lighter. Then how do you live with it? By remembering why we did it. The Council wanted to kill 4 billion of us. We killed 2 million of them. That's not justice, but it's survival. And sometimes survival is all you can ask for." Minho nodded slowly. "I keep telling myself that. It doesn't help much." "It's not supposed to help," Taman said. "It's supposed to be true." 6 months after the war ended, Earth began integrating captured Council technology. Dr. Minho led the research team, working with alien scientists who had defected from the Council. One of them, a being named Zal, had a background in physics. He helped Minho understand faster than light travel. "The Council hoarded technology," Zal explained. "They gave client species only what they needed. But you defeated them. So technically you've earned access to everything." "How does the FTL drive work?" Minho asked. Zal showed him the equations. They were elegant, beautiful, and completely counterintuitive. "It folds space using exotic matter. We've been using this technology for 8,000 years." Minho studied the equations carefully. Then he started making notes. "What if we combined this with Earth's nuclear pulse propulsion? And added a magnetic containment field here?" Zal looked confused. Why would you do that? The Council's drive is already optimal. For the Council's needs, Minho said with a slight smile. But humans have different needs. We like things faster, cheaper, and more redundant, just in case. Within 3 months, Earth's engineers had modified the Council's FTL drives. The new human versions were less efficient but more powerful. They also had multiple backup systems, because humans never trusted something with a single point of failure. Captain Jiwon retired from active duty. She couldn't do it anymore. The things she had done during the war, the orders she had given, they haunted her. She moved to a small town in the mountains and tried to find peace. But peace was hard to find. The media called her a hero. Politicians wanted her to give speeches. Children were named after her. All she wanted was to forget. One day, a young soldier came to visit her. His name was Junho, the man who had questioned her orders during the war. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "You saved my life." "You saved all our lives." Jiwon looked at him carefully. "You think what we did was right?" Junho hesitated. "I think what we did was necessary. That's not the same as right. But I'm alive, and my family is alive, and Earth is free. That has to count for something, does it?" Jiwon asked quietly. "Yes," Junho said firmly, "it does. We can regret how we won while still being grateful that we won. Both things can be true." Jiwon thought about that for a long time after he left. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was possible to live with what they had done. Not forget it, not excuse it, but accept it as the price of survival. Meanwhile, Daehyun prepared to address the Galactic Council for the first time as Earth's official ambassador. The Council had reformed after their defeat, establishing new leadership and new policies. They invited Earth to join as an equal member. Daehyun spent weeks preparing his speech. It had to be perfect. This moment would define humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. The day of his address, he stood before representatives from hundreds of species. The chamber was enormous, built to hold thousands of beings. All of them watched him with wary respect. "People of the galaxy," Daehyun began. "Earth comes before you not as conquerors, but as survivors. We fought because we were given no choice. We fought savagely because our very existence was at stake, and we won." He paused, letting that sink in. "Now we face a choice. We can be enemy." 1 year after the war ended, Earth launched its first faster-than-light colony ship. The vessel was named Indomitable II, in honor of the warship that had led humanity's counterattack. Thousands of volunteers had signed up for the mission to establish humanity's first colony beyond the solar system. Dr. Minho watched the launch from mission control. The ship accelerated smoothly, then vanished as it entered FTL. Years ago, that would have been impossible. Now it was routine. Humanity had taken Council technology and made it their own. "Beautiful," said researcher Borum, who stood beside him. She was leading the Mars terraforming project, using alien technology to make the red planet livable. "A year ago, we were fighting for our lives. Now we're spreading to the stars." "It happened fast," Minho agreed. "Maybe too fast." "Are we ready for this?" Borum shrugged. "We weren't ready for the Council either. We adapted. We'll adapt to this too." On Mars, the terraforming project was progressing ahead of schedule. Massive atmospheric processors, built using a combination of human engineering and Council technology, pumped oxygen into the thin Martian air. The temperature was rising slowly. In 50 years, Mars would be livable without suits. The project employed both humans and aliens. Many Council species had defected after seeing their government's corruption. They came to Earth seeking asylum and a chance to build something new. One of them was Zal, the physicist who had helped Minho understand FTL technology. He had taken an apartment in Seoul and was learning Korean. He found humans fascinating. "You're so contradictory," he told Minho during one of their weekly meetings. "You're capable of such violence, but also such creativity. You nearly destroyed yourselves dozens of times, but you always pulled back at the last moment." "How?" Minho thought about it. "I think it's because we're always a little scared. We know what we're capable of. We know how close we've come to extinction, so we try to be better. We don't always succeed, but we try." "The Council never had that fear," Zal said. "They became comfortable, confident. They forgot that civilization is fragile. You reminded them." Meanwhile, General Heiji had taken on a new role as Earth's Minister of Galactic Defense. Her job was to make sure humanity never faced another existential threat. That meant building fleets, establishing defense stations and training soldiers in the harsh lessons learned during the war. But Hyeji also had to deal with politics. Many humans wanted to dismantle the military now that the war was over. They argued that maintaining a large military made Earth look aggressive. "We look aggressive because we are aggressive," Hyeji told a committee of UN representatives. "The galaxy knows we'll fight. That's good. That keeps us safe. The moment we look weak, someone will try to take advantage." "But at what cost?" asked a representative from Denmark. "We spent 30% of Earth's GDP on the military last year. That's unsustainable." "You know what's unsustainable?" Hyeji replied coldly. "Being conquered. Being turned into a client species. Having 60% of your population eliminated. That's unsustainable. The military budget is cheap compared to that." The argument continued for hours, but eventually Hyeji got most of what she wanted. Earth would maintain a strong military presence. They would build weapons platforms throughout the solar system. They would be ready. Captain Jiwon, now Colonel Jiwon, came out of retirement. She couldn't stay away. The military needed people who understood how to fight the way humans fought. She established a training program called Asymmetric Warfare School. The program taught soldiers tactics that made traditional military officers uncomfortable. How to use hostages effectively, how to fake surrender, how to make enemies question their own sensors and communications, how to win when every rule was against you. "This is necessary," Jiwon told her first class of recruits. "I hate teaching it. I hate that it works. But the galaxy is a dangerous place, and sometimes the only way to survive is to be more dangerous than your enemies." One of her students raised a hand. "What if we become the villains? What if we turn into what we fought against?" Jiwon nodded approvingly. "Good question. The answer is maybe we will. Maybe we already have. But here's what I know. The Council wanted to kill billions of us. They had done it to other species. They would have done it to us. So we stopped them. If that makes us villains, I can live with that." Daehyun served as Earth's ambassador to the new Galactic Council. The organization had reformed after the war, establishing new rules and new leadership. Client species were given more autonomy. Resource extraction was limited. Military conquest was officially banned. But Daehyun knew the reality was more complicated. The Council had changed because humanity forced them to change. Without that threat, they would have continued as before. Peace was maintained by fear, not love. He attended diplomatic functions and gave speeches about cooperation and mutual benefit. But he always wore a weapon hidden beneath his formal clothes. And he always remembered what Taemin had told him. "They respect us because we scared them. Never let them forget to be scared." One day, a delegation from a distant empire arrived on Earth. They called themselves the Kresh Unity, and they controlled several hundred star systems on the other side of the galaxy. They had watched humanity's war with the Council with great interest. Their ambassador, a being named Thresh, met with Daehyun in private. "We were impressed by your tactics," Thresh said. His translator made his voice sound emotionless. The Council had grown weak. They needed to be reminded that power requires strength. You provided that reminder. "We fought to survive," Daehyun replied carefully. "We didn't want war." "Of course," Thresh said. "But now you have power. What will you do with it? The galaxy is watching. Some species see you as liberators. Others see you as a threat. The Kresh Unity is undecided." "What does the Kresh Unity want?" Thresh leaned forward. "We want to know if humanity is a potential ally or a potential enemy. We want to know if you'll be content with your current territory, or if you'll expand. We want to know if you can be trusted." Daehyun chose his words carefully. "Humanity wants peace, but we'll defend ourselves without hesitation. We'll treat our friends well and our enemies harshly, and we'll never again accept terms that threaten our existence. Is that clear enough?" Thresh studied him for a long moment. "Very clear. The Kresh Unity respects clarity. We will watch your species with interest." After Thresh left, Daehyun sent an encrypted message to Major Sunwoo. "We have new players entering the game. Start intelligence gathering on the Kresh Unity immediately." Sunwoo's intelligence division had grown significantly since the war. They monitored galactic communications, tracked ship movements, and analyzed political developments across hundreds of star systems. They knew which species were friendly, which were neutral, and which were potential threats. "The Kresh Unity is powerful," Sunwoo reported to Earth's leadership during a classified briefing. "They control territory equal to the old Council. They have advanced technology. And they're militaristic. Everything we've learned suggests they respect strength and despise weakness. Are they a threat? Asked the Secretary General. Not immediately, Sun Wu said. But in the long term? Maybe. They're testing us, trying to figure out what we're capable of. How we respond will determine their future actions. Admiral Taman, called back as a consultant, had advice. Show strength but avoid confrontation. Let them know we're dangerous but not aggressive. It's a narrow line to walk. The Mars colony celebrated its first harvest. Vegetables grown in Martian soil using techniques developed by human and alien scientists working together. It was a small thing but symbolic. Humanity was putting down roots in a new world. Researcher Borum stood in the greenhouse and looked at the tomatoes growing in neat rows. Behind her, through the transparent dome, the Martian landscape stretched red and beautiful. In the distance, atmospheric processors worked steadily, slowly making this alien world livable. This is what we should have been doing all along, she said to her assistant. Building things. Growing things. Not fighting. But the fighting made this possible, her assistant pointed out. The Council would never have let us colonize Mars. They would have controlled it. Now it's ours. Borum sighed. I know. I just wish there had been another way. Back on Earth, humanity debated its future. Some people wanted to expand aggressively, establishing colonies throughout the galaxy. Others wanted to focus on defending what they had. Still others argued for isolation, avoiding galactic politics entirely. The government tried to balance these competing interests. They established colonies but moved slowly. They built defenses but avoided provocations. They engaged in galactic politics but carefully. It was a precarious balance. One mistake could start another war. Dr. Minho worked on defensive technologies. He had seen how vulnerable Earth was during the Council's initial attack. He was determined that humanity would never be that vulnerable again. His latest project was a network of automated defense platforms surrounding Earth. They used the virus technology he had developed during the war, ready to infect any hostile network. They also had kinetic weapons, nuclear weapons, and even biological weapons as last resorts. Isn't this overkill? Asked one of his colleagues. No, Minho said flatly. Overkill would be making sure we could destroy every planet in the galaxy if we needed to.